Hello guys, it's Wealthias here, and I am here back with the new campaign trail game for the playlist of playing the third party candidates. And I am here with an election I'm actually really excited to play, and I'll actually be doing it twice in this playlist because there are actually two what I'm considering third party candidates. There is the vastly more popular one, Theodore Roosevelt, who tried to seize the Republican nomination, couldn't, and then ran as a third party candidate for the Progressive Party, or as it's more famously known as the Bull Moose Party, because it was basically his political party. And then the socialist candidate, Eugene Debs. So we're going to be playing both of those third party candidates. I don't know why I stumbled on my words there for a bit, but yeah, we're going to be playing both of them. But today I'm actually going to play Theodore Roosevelt first, just because he's the more famous of the two and also has a bigger chance of maybe winning. So we're going to actually try with him, and then we'll do Eugene Debs in the next video. So, um, yeah, this is kind of an interesting election. Basically, Wilson was a progressive Democrat. Taft was a conservative Republican who then split with Roosevelt because Roosevelt was originally a liberal Republican, and they split the Republican nomination. And most historians agree that that split probably lost the Republican Party the election. And then Eugene Debs was just being Eugene Debs. So yeah, we will be playing as Theodore Roosevelt. He had already served, I believe, 2 terms by, yeah, because this was his third term that he was running for, I believe. Yes. I remember he got a lot of flack for that. So yeah, this is his third like term attempt. Because back then there wasn't a thing saying you can only run for 2 terms. You could run for however many you want. It was just a precedent to only run for two. But yeah, so this is him trying to run for a third. Um. And then yeah, Eugene Debs obviously was the socialist. But yeah, we will come back and play this election whenever I go back through and play like the traditional Republicans and Democrats. So yeah. But for the third party, we will be going with Theodore Roosevelt. And hope I don't really know how to. So technically, we start out in the Republican nomination, and it's possible you are actually able to win the Republican nomination. So if that happens, I don't really know what to say to that. I guess it's not really a third party candidacy anymore, but that's okay. All right, so let's take a step back. As the outgoing president, you are due to hand the reins over to President elect Taft, who managed to secure a comfortable victory against William Jennings Bryan's third attempt at the presidency. So if you know about William Jennings Bryan, he's pretty much just famous for losing. I think he ran like 4 times for president and lost all 4. So yeah. Um, it was not as massive as your mighty victory in 1904. You shall let well enough alone and allow Taft to iron out his own agenda. Besides, you have an expedition being planned for Africa and Asia as soon as you leave office. But that said, how long shall these travels of yours last? Let's avoid staying out of the loop for too long. Wonderful it may be, Europe is a distraction from the point of this adventure of ours. We shall return to America alongside the game we collect. Um, or we could visit Europe, visit Britain, Germany, Austria, and Norway. I don't really see the harm in it, I guess. I mean, it is just a travel. I know this might be the better political move, but I don't really mind. You spend well over a year away, writing little to now President Taft, as you and your team collect well over 500 big game animals. The opportunity to meet many leaders in Europe distracts you from this fact. Following a grand and successful hunting trip that lasted about a year, you are now about to tour Europe. The American press is eager to follow you around and report on your visits across the continent, especially as many foreign leaders seem more than happy to give you an audience. Is there any specific nation you'd like to emphasize on your journeys? President Taft has written to me about the death of King Edward VII in Britain. He wishes for me to represent the United States at the funeral. Regardless of my feelings on the man, I have been called upon my country for a task. Called upon by my country for a task, and I shall commit myself to it. We can meet Franz Joseph and other officials from the House of the Habsburgs in Vienna. We can meet with Kaiser Wilhelm, or we can talk with France. Um, I would say Britain's probably better. It's a little bit of a political move, and yeah, I don't really know how popular Vienna or Germany is with America. And then France is just, well, it's France, and no real press there since it's more of a French government than like a key person. So I guess Britain. While Taft's popularity begins to wane over the tariff debate, this is a non-controversial visit with one that the press takes note of. Despite being one of only two commoners at the funeral, you've managed to make yourself the man of the hour by presence alone. Okay. Um. Okay. Yeah. Try as you might to stay away from the domestic political debates, even your travels cannot stop news from spreading to you. You recently received word that Gifford Pinchot, your personal friend and longtime political ally, was fired by Taft after you expressed concerns that Interior Secretary Richard Bollinger had misused his powers when he reversed the publicizing of certain water sources. As betrayed as you might feel, any reaction to such a move would be scrutinized by the press. How shall you react? Um, we can meet with Pinchot. Um, we can say that we disagree with the decision to fire him. Uh, and suggest that he gets reinstated in his position as head of the Forest Service. We cannot address this until we get back, other than a private letter to Pinchot where we express our deepest regret that he was removed unfairly. Um, I would say so. This would basically be splitting off from Taft. I mean, actually, most of these would be, other than this one. But that one, not crazy about it. Uh, this is kind of a political move. It might be for the best. Yeah, I think this is probably the best. I don't really see what good meeting him will do. So yeah, we'll suggest he gets reinstated. The press runs with this comment and grabs the headlines alongside Taft's recent failures. Taft writes to you to defend himself, though you take little of what he has to say seriously. All right. As you have returned from Europe and have made your way to Washington, D.C., President Taft has sent you a telegram offering to let you stay at the White House while you are in town. Well, Minor, this could present a useful opportunity to repair your relationship with the President after minimal communication over the last year. Shall you accept his offer? Um, I would say, yeah, we should probably meet him. I don't think he actually met Taft historically. I don't know for sure, but I don't see the harm in actually meeting with him. The two of you discuss the politics of the day. There are disagreements, respectful ones. You can't exactly tell how Taft feels following the invitation, but you suspect the meeting went well. The Republican establishment is currently apprehensive. And that's okay. In your attempt to assert your role as the de facto party leader, you've set to begin a speaking tour of the Western states to outline your political doctrine and assist potential Republican allies ahead of the midterm elections of 1910, which are due to take place in a couple of months. The first of these speeches shall be held in, oh my gosh, I don't know how to pronounce that, Kansas. What do you wish to focus on in this speech? I think you pronounce that as Osawatomie, maybe. Um, the tariff rates are currently quite high. The Republicans actually do seem to have a comfortable majority, though, so um, hmm, I don't necessarily want to fragment that. So I guess we probably shouldn't denounce tariffs. Um, to destroy Taft at this time would, whether we would like to admit or not, destroy our chances in a 1912 election. We'll make the case that all members of our party are critical for electoral reform, such as the direct election of senators, women's suffrage, and primary elections. Uh, so yeah, we can't do tariffs. That would harm our relationship with Taft. Um, as strong as I might believe in reform of the court's powers, this is a battle that we cannot fight at this moment. I shall scrap that portion from my speech and focus solely upon economic relief and electoral reform. I actually do think those are the most popular of the positions. Um, I don't think the judicial reform was very popular. I actually think that was one of Deb's positions. So we're just gonna say, oh, economic and electoral reform. Um, whoops, nope, that's not the one I want. There we go. You seem to be hitting all the high notes of your platform while trimming some of the more controversial stances. Many Republicans write you in appreciation. Trade agreement with Canada failed to pass. As midterm elections continue to loom, you have begun to maneuver toward wrestling control of the New York Republican Party to ensure that your allies are nominated for statewide offices this year. The Republican convention, tasked with nominating the statewide ticket, is due to convene in a few weeks in upstate New York, once the Republican State Committee selects a temporary chairman. Taft has made some reassurances that he shall support your push at this convention. What will be your strategy to secure control of the party? Um, hmm. We can try and, I think, humbly try and get our name in. I don't think that'll work. Um, hmm. I know that the Republicans were starting to lean a little bit more conservative around this time. Um, yeah, let's see. Where are the uh okay, so there's progressive and regular. My bet is that the regular are the more conservative, and New York is currently regular, so we do probably need to make some amends to the conservatives for the down ballot, but we still want Henry Stimson in. Um, so yeah, let's try to do that. Taft keeps his word and pressures his allies in New York to back you. You secure the role of chair via acclamation and put forth a progressive ticket that, despite losing, fares better than Republicans in other states. Um, okay, the Democratic Party seems likely to nominate Champ Clark. Okay, so that's not historical, but interesting. The defeat of Republicans in the midterms, including your endorsed candidate in New York's gubernatorial election, was certainly a sore spot. But there is some good news for you, in that 1911 has not been a good year for Taft. His reciprocity, uh, I mispronounced that horribly, ignore that. But his treaty with Canada appears to be on the ropes. And it seems that he has received his first primary challenge as Robert La Follette has begun to maneuver toward a campaign against Taft. What do you make of this development, and should you respond? Now, La Follette is another progressive candidate, or a progressive Republican who later splits from the Republican Party to become like a third party candidate. We'll play as him later in the playlist, I think in 1924, 1928, I don't remember which. But yeah, so he's a very liberal Republican, fairly I don't know for sure how similar he was to Theodore Roosevelt, but he might be a good ally to have for this, since he is also liberal. So, let's see. He's unlikely to make a serious impression outside of the Midwest. We shall continue to let him make his case against Taft, but we shall enter the campaign when the time is right. Or we can try and build his support against Taft. I honestly think that might be the better one. Because I do believe I have a better chance of negotiating with La Follette than Taft. So let's see here. Um, Using La Follette as a stalking horse subtly is an interesting idea. Of course, you may run the risk of inflating the man's ego. That's okay. Alright, so we are starting to see delegates. So 2 are uncommitted, 72 go for us, and 87 go for Taft. So, as election year finally rolls around, you've finally made a decision. You are throwing your hat in the ring. Many of your advisors now believe you must formally declare yourself as a candidate soon and are suggesting you call to be drafted at Ohio's upcoming constitutional convention. Additionally, La Follette's campaign has begun to flame out following a very disastrous speech given at an event in Philadelphia. Some advisors are suggesting you fine-tune your prepared speech to ensure the momentum stays on your side. Well, try you focus on at the start of your campaign. We must shed the weakest aspects of our platform and instead stick to our bread and butter appeal, such as the schedule and other progressive reforms. These issues are most likely to win us great support come June. Okay. It is my understanding that I have not seriously campaigned for such a role in numerous years. Ahead of such a tour, I must prepare a stump for myself once more, something I have not done in nearly 14 years. Or there is an appetite for reform in this nation, and I must answer that call. My hat is in the ring, the fight is on, and I am stripped to the buff. We will enact great reform on the tariff schedule and on enabling the ability to elect and recall judges who act against national interests. So, judicial reform, again, not popular. I do think we just need to stick to our bread and butter. Then again, I know Theodore Roosevelt was very popular, so maybe a tour would be good. I don't know though. A speech is the one encouraged, so let's just give a bread and butter speech. Several governors heed your calls, and by the end of the month, you are formally a candidate for President of the United States again. So, still behind Taft in terms of delegates. So, as your campaign for president begins, it becomes clear that Taft has succeeded in building up large majorities in the South as a firewall against you. Though they may be rotten boroughs, I'm mispronouncing that too, the delegates of this region may provide crucial thing. I misread that sentence. Jeez, I apparently cannot read my own native language. Oops. But yeah, so the delegates in this region may be crucial in determining the outcome at the convention, and they may be a roadblock for many paths towards your nomination. Do you have any strategies to deal with this stronghold? So the South is kind of an issue. I really don't think we've got a chance there. Let's see. Our current strategy will prevail. By pressuring the press to emphasize the disputed nature of these delegates, we shall ensure much needed momentum heading into the newly established primaries. I don't trust that. We shouldn't need the South to win the nomination. Attempting to pour resources into messy conventions that are already stacked against our campaign would benefit us little. We shall instead focus our efforts on the other regions in the country. Or, how solid is this region for Taft? There's no chance that he can win a general election, and I suspect many in the South know this. I believe we can sway many with a campaign based upon a desire to keep the executive in Republican hands and protect the jobs many of them have in the region. I wouldn't really say that they'd probably believe that Taft couldn't win. I mean, he won the election before. Honestly, not to mention, there are some people who just, at the time, truly hated Teddy Roosevelt. Like, I don't think they would work with him. So, yeah, we're just going to bypass the South. We're just going to pull an Abe Lincoln and just ignore it. You are all but surrendering the South to Taft, but with his institutional advantage, this might be the best call. So, yeah, he gets a boost, but we're still keeping up in terms of delegates. So the primary season has kicked into full swing. Numerous primaries are due to be held over the next few weeks. Illinois, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and most notably New York. Voters in these states, unlike most, will have the ability to directly decide who represents the state at the 1912 Republican Convention. Taft's greatest weakness shall, of course, be during this process. With 260 delegates in the early primaries, where you place your focus may be consequential for your campaign. What shall you do? Pennsylvania and Illinois should be our primary focus. I believe that irrespective of the New York result, we can ensure Taft's defeat in these states and walk away with a larger share of the delegates. Any chance at defeating Taft will be ruined by an attempt to split the opposition vote. We shall focus on minimizing the effect that La Follette may play at the upcoming convention by heavily contesting North Dakota and Wisconsin. Or even if we cannot win New York due to the large number of issues with the primary system implemented by the Democratic Party, the fact remains that it is the largest and most delegate heavy. We'd be doomed to a loss if we do not try to narrow Taft's margin down. I mean, New York probably isn't in our favor. Does seem like Illinois and what is it, Pennsylvania are much more in line with us, so I think we can actually beat those. Well, we might actually just be able to win those by, just the nature of our candidacy. I think maybe we should try and, split the vote in New York. Let's try it. Taft still wins New York, but is a narrower than he had hoped. The good news is that you also win Illinois and Pennsylvania, meaning you end this whole affair with a large net gain of delegates. Amazing. That's exactly what we were hoping for. So, more states, specifically Massachusetts, Oregon, Maryland, and Nebraska, are due to hold their primaries shortly. While you hold an advantage here, your goal is not just to win, but to win big and narrow the gap between you and Taft further. Some advisors are suggesting that you visit Oregon, while others believe other states are far more important and less remote than Oregon. Which state will you focus on? As a border state, Maryland would provide proof that we are capable of winning in the spring, the sort of states that we must also secure in the fall. I hope we can defeat Taft by a wide margin there. It is progressive. Maryland is also progressive, but they're conservative on the economy. Maryland is moderate. Oregon, moderate, progressive. Okay. Let's see. So Maryland is maybe the best. Or we could listen to our advisors. Um, hmm. Yeah, Oregon may be best, I guess, if Taft is likely to do well there. I don't know though. Massachusetts might also go to Taft just because he's the conservative candidate. So maybe we can try and, cut down the difference in Massachusetts as well. Not to mention it's just the largest state. As these few weeks pass, it becomes clear that you have managed to win all 4 of the primaries, a clean sweep, and one that will allow your campaign to persist. Awesome. Oh, and we actually pulled ahead of Taft in terms of delegates. So the final set of primaries is coming up across May and into early June. California, New Jersey, South Dakota, and Taft's home state of Ohio will all be selecting delegates soon. Your allies and campaign staff believe that you will need to use these primary contests to further diminish Taft's institutional advantage going into the convention. With stances such as court reform still proving controversial, some advisors are suggesting a change in course on the matter as you campaign against Taft in these final weeks. What shall you do? We can discuss court reform extensively, which no, that's just stupid. Let's see. So we can continue, talking about court reform, which is an idiotic move, so we will not be doing that. We can try and contest La Follette, in California and South Dakota, but both of those are very, very minor states, and not to mention La Follette is currently like trailing in terms of delegates. So yeah, that probably isn't gonna turn out anything. I think we need to try and contest Taft in Ohio, even if it is his home state. So let's see if that goes well. He swept all 4 of the primaries, picking up almost 100 delegates compared to a measly 16 for Taft. Jeez. Okay. It is now the start of the Republican National Convention, and the selection of the convention chair, nominally a formality, may prove crucial in deciding the fate of the handful of contested delegates at the convention. You have heard that Taft's men have proposed Mr. Elihu Root, a member of your old cabinet, for the role. Meanwhile, the La Follette camp has proposed Governor McGovern. That's kind of a mouthful to say, but very fitting name. Of Wisconsin. A combined effort to stop Taft from steamrolling the convention seems possible, but you need to be smart here. La Follette clearly does not support us and would withdraw his support if he learned of this development. Our support for McGovern must be an ironclad secret until the roll call. Root would make it a fantastic chairman, and I absolutely appreciate the olive branch presented to me by the Taft camp. We will attempt to nominate him by acclamation. Or we shall side with the La Follette camp here. Governor McGovern shall be our candidate for the convention chair, and we believe he will be a fair leader of this meeting. So this one, I guess I kind of get it just because La Follette probably does not like us, but also if we don't emphasize support, La Follette would not be able to get that guy nominated. Root is a member of the old cabinet, but I don't really trust him just because Taft is the one trying to nominate him. So I don't trust that. So let's try and side with La Follette. La Follette backs out at the last minute, declaring that his camp makes no deals with Roosevelt and no trades with Taft. Root is nominated on the first ballot afterwards. Okay, well, maybe I should have gone with the other, but that's okay. Your attempt to secure the delegates from a handful of contested conventions, Washington, Arizona, and Texas, just to name a few, has seemingly been thwarted by Chairman Root. He has placed a proposal of Governor Hadley, one of your allies, into a credentials committee that is likely to rule in favor of the Taft delegates. In the meantime, these delegates will be given full voting rights for all resolutions, including the presidential nomination. If the stealing is flagrant, no one can tell what the results may be. This is a serious act of larceny against our great party, and I hope that we can move towards a fair majority despite it. Members of your camp begin to discuss a walkout of some kind after hearing this. You've thought about it before, but now it's more serious. Yeah, he might actually, wait a minute. Your men can count, at least if you think they can, but the numbers, they aren't adding up. They do a head count, then another. Your aides do the math on their handkerchief. No one has a majority, it seems. If you want the nomination, you're going to need your allies to start making moves sooner rather than later. So, the cleanest solution here is to strike some deal with Taft. Though he views me as far too radical, conceding the vice presidential nomination to his men would soothe their concerns about the Constitution. I doubt it. La Follette obviously will not negotiate with us. Yeah, we can't make a deal with his men. Let's try and appeal to the favorite sons, I guess. I think that's the best course of action. In the end, Taft is able to strong-arm the convention rules while you spend time convincing a small number of favorite sons to back you up. You shall continue your campaign into November. Following your right... Oh, wait. I don't think we won the nomination. Following your rightful nomination being stolen by Taft and his allies, a national push to reform a progressive party has formed. You shall, of course, be nominated at this convention by acclamation, reflecting the true and honest choice of the Republican Party. However, you will need a running mate, and given that many Republicans have yet to formally cast their lot, your options are limited. Who shall you select as your vice presidential nominee? So, wow, they really did steal that from us. We had more delegates. Oh well. This is a third party campaign, so I guess it makes sense that we're running as a, third party. Alright, so my first choice, of course, would be California Governor Hiram Johnson. He can secure the state of California for the campaign and provide regional balance to our new political movement. California's already in our camp pretty solidly. We can bring back Pinchot on the holes who stood first. Not to mention, he was at the start of this campaign, so that'd be kind of neat. Or, Senator Beveridge, from the Midwest. Let's bring back Pinchot. The other two, they're in regions that are kind of, I don't necessarily know how great it is to choose those regions. So let's see if we can get Pinchot in. Pinchot will be an asset in Pennsylvania and can help dredge up the Pinchot-Ballinger affair. You're told he will be nominated with the same level of support as you. Okay, cool. Let's see. What states do we need to win? Let's try to get more of the Northeast, I guess? Or no, Iowa might be more important. Following a canvass of New England, you have returned to Chicago nearly 2 months after the drama of the Republican convention. At the same venue you were denied your rightful crown, the Chicago Coliseum will host your own convention, one built on progressive ideals that you have long battled for. Still, ahead of the convention, one potential issue persists. That is the admission of African American Republicans from the South. Hoping to make an impact in the nominally Democratic region, you have begun to push for the group's exclusion from the convention. But some advisors want you to reconsider. What will your decision be? My own stances on racial matters already make me unacceptable to the South. As a result of pragmatism, we shall allow men and women of all racial groupings at the convention. Or that one's just blatantly racist. I can't go with that one. Especially since, the South is like solid blue. That will not turn green. So yeah, we will allow them in. The few black voters that exist in the South have likely already sided with Taft, but northern black voters are giving your candidacy a second, more serious look. Awesome. Wow, that actually is a decent chunk of, that actually seems like it got me some, support. Huh, neat. Congratulations. Though it was to be expected, you have now been nominated by the Progressive Party for President of the United States and will face off alongside Taft and Wilson during the campaign. Okay, so Wilson did win the Democratic nomination. As you begin to write a formal acceptance speech, what would you like to focus on as you address the eager and jubilant crowd? We can extend a hearty greeting. We can call out the weakness of both the Democrats and the Republicans. We need to focus on reform, and that brings up the court system again. Okay. Okay, let's do this one. This one actually seems the best because it lessens the feud between me and President Taft, which that feud is very unimportant. Taft doesn't even have a single electoral vote, and on top of that, yeah, we don't want people thinking Theodore Roosevelt is just running to spite Taft. So let's actually talk about, the works Theodore Roosevelt did when he was president, the reform and all the reform proposals outlined in New Nationalism. So yeah, let's do that. If you've built up a large lead against Taft, this strategy might be a good idea. Onward. Okay, so what states can I win? Nebraska might be in reach. Yeah, let's try Nebraska, I guess. I know it's only 8 political votes, but or electoral votes. For the past few years, you've put out a series of policy prescriptions that you have dubbed New Nationalism. Taft has spent much of the primary contest attacking these proposals, and Wilson seems eager to do the same. How do you like to discuss New Nationalism while campaigning? We can talk about how he wants to, get business out of government. We can say that it's common sense progressivism that would help provide for the needs of the working man. We could talk about national health insurance, an income tax, and an 8-hour workday. We can talk about the recall for everyone, including judges. That one, we gotta quit bringing up judicial reform. That's not a winning plank. Let's talk about how New Nationalism is simply an extension of the previous Square Deal and allow our voters to fill in actually, no, maybe not that one. That might not be progressive enough. Let's just say that it's simply common sense progressivism. These are proposals that remain popular with many of your supporters, and proposals such as an income tax have widespread appeal. Yeah, somehow income taxes were popular back then. And it would appear Taft has gotten a vote somewhere. I don't really know where. Oh, Utah. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so one might have expected that Champ Clark, incumbent Speaker of the House, would have coasted to the nomination and stumbled his way into the White House. However, despite getting a majority after 10 ballots, New Jersey Governor Woodrow Wilson was able to secure the Democratic nomination after almost 50 ballots in a long battle that may have changed the course of the party forever. Do you have any comments to make regarding his nomination? How will your campaign address him? So Governor Wilson has proposed a platform that he called New Freedom, but much of its contents seem to have been ripped directly from my platform. Still, elements of radicalism linger throughout this proposal, such as the breaking up of trust. Okay, that's something Theodore Roosevelt did, so that's not a good critique, but saying that New Freedom is kind of a ripoff of Theodore Roosevelt's policies. This is actually pretty true. Wilson is a respectable man, but he is far too academic and timid to face the challenges that our nation shall face in the coming years. This is a time of action based upon bold proposals for reform, not of poetry and prose. That one's just attacking his personal character, which, to be fair, you can definitely do that. Wilson was not a good person. But honestly, that's personality politics. I don't think were quite as popular back then. I think we should probably just say that, he won't actually bring about a progressive reform. This will hopefully make progressive think twice about Wilson's record. Keep in mind, he is the governor of New Jersey, and his record there is progressive. Okay, well, that's kind of regrettable, but oh well. What other states can we win? We are trailing in all the key states, other than Nebraska. But I don't think Nebraska is our route to victory, but I guess we can keep trying it. One line of attack that Wilson has quickly latched onto is that of your rather selective view on trust. You have long viewed it as impossible to crack down on the formation of trust fully, and instead believe that the federal government would be better spent creating agencies to regulate these large businesses. Still, with the national mood strongly against trust, it might be wise to clarify what you mean by good trust and bad trust. What will be your stance on trust if elected? We can pivot and say that we'll aggressively trust bust in the second term. We can say that a government agency designed to destroy businesses would be a grave overreach. We can just say that by busting the worst trust, we are able to create an environment that ensures that businesses do not overstep their authority. I have a record, one as a candidate and almost two as president, for people to understand my views on the matter. I do not feel it necessary to clarify further. No, we need to clarify further. That one, it's not very popular, I guess. Or, it is popular, but not as popular as aggressively trust busting, which is what I'll say I'm going to do. So, let's see. This is quite in tune with the national mood, but the wealthy men funding your campaign are not pleased to hear you say this in the slightest. Yeah. Oops. Okay, that's fine. We lost a little bit of funding. I'm sure I don't need it. The unusual nature of this election has resulted in there being many states that are potentially competitive, given the circumstances. Many of your advisors are suggesting that, following your nomination, you should spend much of August canvassing and speaking throughout a general region, before being more selective in your visits. Where do you like to campaign throughout the month? So, the South is no. We're not winning in the South. The Northeast? Yeah, the Northeast is pretty weak right now. And it has more voters than the West. I think we gotta solidify the Northeast. Let's see here. Are I supposed to try it? Ooh, my, that is very harsh. Yeah, I don't think we're winning that. Okay, Northeast it is, I suppose. Maybe. There we go. Some policies, such as court reform, remain quite toxic to the voter pools of this region. Reassuring them is a good idea. Okay. So we'll bring these states back into the fold. Can we win over New Hampshire? No. New Hampshire is out of reach. Vermont is not. We'll go to Vermont. So as per usual, the Socialists have fielded a candidate in this election. For the fourth time in a row, Eugene Debs, the mastermind behind the Pullman strike of 1894, will head off on a speaking tour in an attempt to collect and canvass as many votes for his socialist movement. Some of your advisors have suggested that you should openly discuss him during your speeches in an attempt to dampen his appeal. What do you have to say about Debs? We can not attack him or give him attention. Debs believes that businesses are fundamentally corrupt. He is wrong. We are against crooked businesses, big or little. We are in favor of honest businesses, big or little. There are clear differences between us. Or we can say, oh, his goals are admirable, but he has no chance of winning. Honestly, he's just a third-party candidate. I'm not going to give him any attention. Oh, okay, that might have been a mistake. As you stay silent, Deb's vote shares continue to swell and swell. This is likely to your detriment. Well, it's fine. Currently, women hold the right to vote in several states out west, and universal suffrage for women is a topic that has grown in political support. During your campaign, you have indicated your support for women's suffrage, but you have a chance to refine your stance for the general election. Do you support a constitutional amendment to give women the right to vote? I think we should probably just say we support a constitutional amendment. In a few years, historically, they do pass the right, like the constitutional amendment to allow women to vote anyway, so it's already becoming a fairly popular position by 1912. Yeah, I would say we just, not to mention it's progressive, so yeah, we'll just say we want a constitutional amendment for that. Yeah. It's hard to deny that suffrage has been growing in popularity, and this is in line with the platform you endorsed at the convention. Oh my, that brought me a lot of support. Okay. I was not actually expecting that. Let's see if we can get Nebraska. Nebraska's the key to my victory. Given the breakneck speed at which you bolted from the Republican Party, the question remains as to what the long-term purpose of the Progressive Party shall be. While locally, the party has begun to field candidates for congressional and gubernatorial races, there is some discussion about focusing efforts at the top of the ticket and limiting the party's budget down ballot. Is this something you wish to pivot on? My success at the top of the ticket shall determine our ability to make an impact in congressional races. Besides, Democrats are likely to secure large majorities in Congress anyway. Or, given the amount of money we have, it wouldn't hurt to focus more on our down ballot races. Even if I am unable to secure victory, members of the Progressive Party shall be a major voice in our politics going forward. So in theory, I like that one to try and fund the new third party, but in reality, Theodore Roosevelt was the most popular of the party, and it was called the Bull Moose Party, named after him. So I really do think we should invest more money into Roosevelt. This is the expected course of action, and if you are struggling to beat Wilson, this is likely the smartest option. So yeah, I was about to say, why am I losing the Northeast? Yeah, it's just Taft. Okay, that's kind of annoying. Following a rather quiet summer, Governor Woodrow Wilson has begun his speaking tour of the country in an attempt to counter your appeal. During his speeches, he has focused on attacking you for your support of tariffs and, more importantly, your program of new nationalism. Writing up a series of attacks with the assistance of Louis Brandeis, Wilson's anti-monopoly platform has seemingly helped him find his footing in this race. How would you like to continue this debate? We can say that, we're critical of large trusts, but that, if we try to harm them, labor will be hurt. We can talk about his concerns about monopolies, trusts, and tariffs, but say that he says little about social justice. He has proposed no action on child labor or social insurance, instead believes in spending time breaking up companies for their size. Though it is understandable that he would raise this argument, we have seen that breaking up trusts is not feasible, except for the fact that he kind of did it. And by that him, I mean Roosevelt. He broke up some trust. Yeah. Let's actually talk about the social justice thing. That's a pretty good social or progressive issue to hit him on. Because, yeah, Wilson was not in any way a social progressive. He was incredibly racist. He's actually, basically single-handedly credited with reviving the KKK. So, yeah, not a good guy. So yeah, we'll bring that up. This is a good argument to make, and one that Wilson seems to struggle with responding to. He eventually mentions support for local laws on the matter in his speeches. Aha, that isn't progressive enough. Now, can I please just have Nebraska? Maybe. You're at a campaign event in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, preparing to give a speech following a wonderful meal at Gilpatrick Hotel. That's when you hear it. Bang. It all happens quickly, but within a moment, your would-be assassin is apprehended, and you realize you are still standing. You, Mr. Roosevelt, have just been shot. So this is a real-life event, and I'm going to go with, the real-life course of action he went, which is to continue to give the speech. So, yeah, historically, he was shot in the chest. I believe it hit his speech that was in his pocket, so it didn't go into anything vital. So he just got right back up on the stage and continued his speech. So, yeah. Yeah, here we go. It even talks about this. Takes more than that to kill a bull moose. Fortunately, I had my manuscript, so you see I was going to make a long speech, but there is a bullet. There is a bullet that went through, and it probably saved me from it going into my heart. That bullet is in me now, so I cannot make a very long speech, but I will try my best. So yeah, we're going to continue this speech, like you did historically. You quickly realize that, given that you are not coughing up blood, the bullet did not reach your lung, and you can continue to give your speech. Your opponent suspended their campaign until yours returns a few weeks later. So, yeah. Pretty cool moment from Roosevelt. It's one a lot of people like to talk about. So following that assassination attempt, you've briefly stopped campaigning and instead will leave Pinchot to give a series of speeches in favor of your candidacy. Though he may make the greatest impact within his home state of Pennsylvania, the state is already expected to be favorable to him, and some, including Pinchot himself, are suggesting sending him elsewhere. What shall you do? So yeah, we don't really need him in Pennsylvania. That state's gonna vote for us. Might be best to try and win either the Plains or the West. So again, we can do New England, which is pretty helpful. Yeah, I think that's probably the best. They're not giving us the option to do the Plain states. So yeah, there we go. Pinchot is eager to campaign in a region where he believes he would be able to make a difference. New England may very well be winnable for you. So yeah. Not really a chance to win over the Plains, it doesn't seem like. So, having finally recovered from your assassination attempt, you are due to give a final series of speeches to close out what has been one of the most remarkable elections ever. One last issue you might need to address is the unprecedented nature of your whole campaign. Not only are you running for a third term, but you have also rejected the results of the Republican convention when doing so. Will you address these worries during your closing arguments? To address such claims would be to give them legitimacy. And so I wish to focus on the tyrannical platform that the Democratic Party has been running on. The decision to break up companies and slash tariff rates enacted by Congress would set back our liberties. We can say that we don't intend to serve for life. My platform is one of great reforms, such as the recall and referendum. For those concerned that I discard tradition and the Constitution, I pledge to all Americans that by the end of my tenure, they shall have more freedoms and powers to enact change than ever before. Or we can talk about social reform and justice. Offer a vision for new nationalism, one which will provide the American people with a greater share of wealth and will crack down on those who seek to harm them. I think that might be the best course of action, honestly. Because, yeah, this is, again, the judicial reform. So, you offered up a large selection of progressive reforms. It'll be interesting to see what is passed if you manage to get elected. Okay. We're still at 179. As your campaign comes to a close, and with victory for the Democrats looking more and more possible, where would you like your surrogates to spend the final few days or so before the election takes place? Western states remain a tight contest. No, they aren't. They're out of our reach. We can tour the plains and the south. That could get us a couple of. It could potentially get us Nebraska. But honestly, I don't think that would be worth it. I do kind of want to, Never mind. There's no new Northeast one. We just have to kind of trust that Wilson won't take it. So I guess to the Plains we go. Maybe we can actually get Nebraska. Following your last set of speeches, you return to your home at Oyster Bay to listen for the results in the coming days. Best of luck, Mr. Roosevelt. Alright, so let's see what we got. So, yeah, Wilson wins some expected states, like the South. Debs actually seems to be polling half decently. That's kind of impressive. Yeah, I don't think we win this. I do think Wilson has it in the bag. But I think we may have been able to do better than Roosevelt historically. I'll have to check after the full election results come in. Sorry, you have lost the election this time. Click OK to view the rest of the returns or skip straight to the final results. We hope you have a nice concession speech prepared. Let's just go to the final results. This country will not be a permanently good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a reasonably good place for all of us to live in. In a stunning result, you've managed to break every expectation for what a third party can do. From sea to shining sea, you've assembled a coalition of progressives and Republican partisans to carry the mantle of the progressive movement. Despite Wilson prevailing in the end, you've utterly humiliated the conservative wing of the GOP. The progressive movement is ascendant at this moment, with a sympathetic incoming president and a GOP which will be clamoring to bring its electorally successful wing back into the fold. It may be possible to establish a bipartisan progressive order. Whether you finalize the creation of an independent progressive party or lead the GOP, you've won the moment. You just wish you'd also won the White House. Hughes' movement gained strength with no dark horse yet in sight, dickering with Moose fruitless. So, I think yeah, this is like, it covers like the alternate history of it, so that's kind of neat. Yeah, I don't know what this is talking about. Oh well. Alright, so this is what we got, which is, I'm actually incredibly happy with that. Let's see what they got historically. So, historically speaking, there we go. Oh. Historically, Roosevelt only got 88 electoral votes. And we got 187, so I'm incredibly happy with that. Yeah, I will 100% call that a win in my book. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. If you didn't, comment down below, I can do better. And I shall see you guys in the next video.